Hi TMNT fans, I'm Don LaFaucre and this is a dual review of TMNT episodes 19 and 20. To begin with, episode 19 was good. I agree with Mark's observations of lots happening and everyone playing a part. You guys know me at this point. The more that happens and the more character involvement there is, the better. We got to see Shredder's henchmen do their thing and together for once. Weird to think that Bradford and Zever haven't worked together since they got mutated. That was so long ago. One thing I especially enjoyed about this episode was the great use of 20 minutes. Important aspects such as the similarities between Raph and Fishface were shown right off the bat, but with subtlety until the main message came around. I know I complained about pacing earlier in the season, but I think it's safe to say that the writers are doing a better job of handling that particular issue. As I mentioned earlier, everyone played a part in this episode. I'll start off with Splinters Contributions. As you know, he instructs his pupils to sense an enemy's intent before said enemy strikes. Leo does best in this exercise, which would make you think he would generally be best at sensing enemy intent. However, Raph applied this skill in actual combat first, showing you have to understand your enemy to sense anything about them. Leo understands Splinter better than any of his brothers do. This makes sense when you look back, say at episode 10, when Leo was quickest to adopt Splinter's new intense routine. And then in episode 13, he created and exploited an opening to Splinter's usually invincible technique. He was the only one to understand how to get through to Splinter when the Rat King had him under his control. Splinter's other contribution came later in the episode as he trained April. First off, it's great to finally see April train. While I think some of the other weapons were well suited for her, I'm satisfied with her ultimate choice, considering its deeper significance. Her acceptance of Splinter's gift is symbolic of her acceptance into Splinter's family, and it's also a sign of Splinter's affection for her, as Rodney383 pointed out. Splinter, unfortunately, never got to raise Miwa, but he sees a different opportunity with April. After years of believing he lost everything, he gets a reminder that all is not lost. It's heartwarming to see that April returns the gesture. In my opinion, Splinter has done more than the Turtles to help her adjust to a life without a father. True, they are the ones who save her when the need arises, but he is the one who comforts her and teaches her in Kirby's absence. Speaking of Kirby, I hope he's alright. One thing I'll complain about is that April really easily convinced Splinter that she was ready for a weapon. In my opinion, she wasn't. It seemed April cares more about a tangible weapon than the higher importance of critical thinking. I get, she's a teen, but if Donnie had to go through the humiliating mind over matter lesson, so should April. To me, this is another sign of her rash impulsiveness. I loved the connection made between Raph and Fishface, especially because we've seen similarities between the good and bad guys all season, starting off with Splinter and Shredder, then with Leo and Karai. The good guys aren't so different from the bad guys, especially where Raph and Fishface are concerned. Both tend to be a little violent, but their moral or immoral codes, depending on who you're thinking of, keep them on their respective paths. However, Raph got to use his rarely seen empathy again to understand Fishface's motives. Despite its rare use, Raph used his empathy well, saving Leo from Fishface's attack. Good thing Raph understood Fishface well enough to predict that move. See, Raffy boy, it's not such a bad thing to be empathetic. Oddly enough, there's a disconnect between the brothers taking Leo's instincts for granted and the villain's readiness to obey him. Leo was the voice of reason, but his brothers ignored him until it was too late. Baxter's trap served as a wake-up call, so they barely questioned him for the rest of the episode. I'm not sure why Dogpound and Fishface listened to Leo without giving him as much sass, as Ronnie383 and Mark Rodriguez also noticed, but they did, and they followed his orders without a hitch. Lastly, Baxter Stockman. For a guy who invents a maze that twists and turns all over the place, and is tricked with tons of secret weapons, he has no creativity. Seriously, why does everything he creates have to be some instrument of doom? Mikey could come up with several catchy monikers while fighting an army of foot ninjas. However, Ronnie383 and Mark found Baxter's cliched names and everyone's lack of respect for him funny. Admittedly, I do too. Painfully, though, sometimes. There are a couple of people I want to give a shout out to. Firstly, nice work, Santia1. You correctly predicted that Baxter would betray the Shredder. I'm not sure if this was the sort of betrayal you saw coming, but you were right nonetheless. And there was another viewer who wanted, or at least hoped, that Baxter would be able to escape the Shredder's clutches. I'm not quite sure who you are, and I apologize for that. Your wish definitely came true, though, so give yourself a pat on the back. Now, on to episode 20, Enemy of My Enemy. This episode was also really good. There was lots of deep character development, and the plot twists and turns as the turtles gain and then lose a potential ally. I'll admit, Karai still confuses me. Just when I think I've got a handle on her, she does something surprising. After the alien agenda, I got used to thinking of her as a manipulative Kunoichi who hurts people for kicks. Now I feel like she cares more than she lets on. That elusive heart of hers only shows itself when she rebels against her dad. Whenever she starts thinking for herself, I wonder if maybe there's more to her than a common criminal. I guess I can really sympathize with Leo here. The only good thing I can definitely say about the girl is that she thinks with her head, not her loyalty. However, that may have changed after this episode. In my opinion, that's a bit of a shame. Oddly enough, I was starting to like Carrillo. I couldn't deny that they had a little bit of chemistry whenever they worked out a mutual agreement. They exchanged this "we're on" look after Leo affirmed a potential partnership. To me, it was their little way of telling each other they were hoping for this alliance, despite their allegiances. Also, I noticed that whenever Karai and Leo interact, this warped version of Habanera from Carmen plays. You know, that song that goes da-dun-dun-dun, da-dun-dun-dun, da-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. It's generally known as a couple song, but in the opera, Carmen sings about how unpredictable love is. It really suits Karai and Leo, especially a warped version of it, because it shows these two have a very complicated relationship. Despite their sympathies towards each other, they are loyal to their respective families, even if their families drive them crazy. That being said, I'm glad Leo consulted his family before making any decisions regarding Karai. It shows that he trusts his family and is willing to work to earn their trust. Quick shout out to Mark Rodriguez for guessing my thoughts on this one. However, his instinct to trust her seemed to be right this one time. Interestingly, he had to act alone to save her when she distracted the Krang. That foreshadowed his lonely stance against attacking the Shredder. I get the feeling Splinter wouldn't have condoned the attack because, well, as Rodney383 also mentioned, the turtles don't have the muscle to take him out. Therefore, the guarantee of a partnership with Karai outweighed the slim chance they actually defeated the Shredder. It's too bad Leo ignored his instinct when push came to shove. I guess it was clear from the beginning of the episode that Leo was governed by his family instead of, the other way around. Now, to make things more interesting, the writers made the Shredder more interested in the Krang activities. I suppose seeing the Krang shoot at him was enough to spur the mighty Shredder to capture an alien for himself. It's been interesting to see what Shredder does with that Krang. Now, my question of the day for you guys, and this is something I really would love to know from you. Do you think Karai was actually warming up to the turtles? So, further on down the road, would she have actually joined their side if the turtles hadn't betrayed her in her eyes? Or would you side with Raph, thinking that she would never partner up with them in the long run? Don't forget the ever-growing probability that Karai is Miwa. Alright, thanks so much for listening, guys, and I will talk to you pretty soon for episodes 21 and 22. Have a great day!